Hello, everyone. It is Tonia with Tea with Tonia today, and I am excited because I have with me the magical alchemist, Mark Connolly, and more importantly, my journey partner in my life since I've done, what do we even call it?
Our
Transition.
journey of
A
transformation.
transformation. I met him in a yoga teacher training that we did. It's called Nam Yoga, and we instantly gravitated to each other like two cynics in the night who saw each other just looking at each other saying, what the fuck are we doing here?
I know. We always joke that I always say when I'm talking to people about our relationship that if we could have had a martini and a cigarette in the back of a class, that would have been us. Like,
Yeah.
all right, impress us.
Uh-huh.
But then I realized that we probably had the most to learn.
Yes. Well, and that's why we just clung to each other, because it was the beginning of a different part of the journey for us, but also where I met you and then got to know more about you. So please tell everyone who you are, where you're from, what you do, and just, a little bit more of the magic that is you.
I can do that.
Yes, you can.
Hi, my name is Mark Connolly, and I am an intuitive healer and energy worker. Primarily, I work with my intuition, obviously, and aromatherapy and Eastern energy work. And lately, I've been doing a lot of meditations taken from the work that I do. I was born in Liverpool in the UK. Come a long way, baby.
Yes, you have.
and moved to London and went to St Martin's School of Art in London. I was in the same class as John Galliano and Hamish Bowles, if that means anything to anybody out there. And then I started very quickly after leaving college. I became the first male fashion director of a women's magazine, which was Cosmopolitan. Then I worked on and helped create the launch of British GQ. And then New York beckoned, and the job of jobs, really, the ultimate job.
It really is. It really is.
Until it wasn't.
Of course.
Which we'll get to.
Yes, we will.
So for 20 years, I was the style director for Condé Nast Traveler magazine. And I kind of art directed big photo shoots around the world. So I would choose photographers, models, hair and makeup, locations, destinations. And I used to attend all of the fashion shows in Europe and in New York. And they would dictate where I went in the world. So.
Yes. Which is pretty much everywhere. I've heard the stories. It was pretty...
Mm-hmm. All over the world.
All over the world.
Yeah, there's probably more countries that I've been to than I haven't been to.
That is very true. That is very true. And so it naturally just brings us into the next, or really the question that I love asking people, which is what was, because now it seems like, right? Condé Nast, traveled the world, doing all this fabulous stuff. But yet when you started out, you were saying that you're an energy healer and quite different than where you started out. So what was the pain point, or really what was the thing that had you kind of wake up to this second career or second kind of, or really from what I know from you now, really being who you are authentically and tapping into something that was always there, but you just never allowed. So, what was the jolting moment of it that had you kind of switch out of that gear?
God, you're going there really quickly.
Well, that's how I do
you
it.
You love a pain point, don't you?
I do. Well, here, look at the...
This was a present from Tonia, a gift.
It says, my inner child is a mean little fucker.
And that inner child had been gnawing away at me and to come out for a really long time. So the job of jobs, the ultimate, the apex of a career. And for the first 12 years, it was wonderful. And then the crash of 2008 happened and everything changed with Condé Nast, but within publishing and also the internet and the accessibility of the internet. And I could feel the industry changing, and things started to go downhill at work. The atmosphere, the backbiting, which had never been like that before. It was one of the most lovely places to work, and suddenly it went from here to here very quickly. and kept descending. And there's a lot of deception going on. But I chose to stay there for another 5 years. You know, I stayed 5 years too long at that party, basically. And at the end of those 5 years, Anna Wintour, who was then made the creative director of all of Condé Nast titles, decided to do an overhaul on Condé Nast Traveller. So about 80% of the staff were let go. And obviously, most of the senior positions were older people who'd been there a long time and were expensive. So we all got our marching orders September of 2013, which was lovely because that was Fashion Week. And Condé Nast has a habit of firing people in Fashion Week or at Christmas. So yeah, that happened. And there was a couple of pain points associated with it. Not just that I'd lost my job and my finances, but even worse, and it took me about 6 weeks to figure this out, was the realization that I thought that my identity was tied up in that job. That it ripped me, you know, that really ripped me apart. It really hurt, thinking that that was all I was and had been. And so that really prompted me to look at my life differently. I also realized, you know, started to realize that most people now need to have second or third acts. There is no longevity anymore with, you know, with the way the world is going, particularly in those related industries. And I did not want to be clinging on to an old career by my Lee press on nails. And it was an industry. It was an industry that did not want me as much as I didn't want it. So that was another pain point. And I could not go on. And obviously I tried.
Right.
I went back to Europe. I went to see a few people, and it wasn't like anybody was handing me out a sympathy job or anything. I just kind of got dropped like a poison hot potato. Yeah. And virtually nobody followed through or was sympathetic. And I think people thought that they could catch it. Little did they know that it's gone wildfire throughout the industry. Now, magazines closing, you know, print, they're saying is so out of date now.
I was going to say it's like a dying art in a way.
Yeah.
It's not what it used to be.
No, so I spent about 6 to 8 weeks practically howling at the moon, in a real state of despair and disarray. What we would say was grieving.
Yeah.
And I did it well. I mean, I went there. I was really kind of feeling sorry for myself, and you know, I was drinking, I was smoking, did a few drugs, did you name it, to kind of numb that feeling.
Yes.
And then when I kind of got over it, and then got over the fact that the industry didn't want me, I made a very deliberate, conscious decision, and I'm so proud of this because it was very unexpected, to completely quit my old life. And I decided to use my life savings, my 401k, and invest it in me. I used my life savings to save my life, effectively, which will be the title of the book. Yes. And I also realized that in creating a new life, a second act, that retirement was no longer going to be an issue, because if I'm creating a new and improved me with a new life, I wouldn't want to retire. Why would I? Because I'm doing something I love, something that, you know, the word you used before, authentically me.
Yeah.
So I made that very bold decision to take the money out, invest in me, and April 1st, I walked out of my front door and gave myself permission to do whatever I wanted with no agenda.
Which is so huge. Which is so huge, because I think so many people, I mean, this isn't even the beginning of the story, like the story in total, but just what you want to highlight, what you said about learning the lesson of the identity of the career, and that anything is you, right? Like in that lesson of knowing that there's so much of you wrapped up in something, and meanwhile, that's not really it, where people can lose their jobs. And I think that's why I love talking about the pain point, because now it's been How long has it been now?
September 13th, September 2013 was when we all got booted out.
And so now we're here 6 years later, and in that moment, you couldn't see all that was going to be possible for you now.
Oh, let me tell you, I thought it was going to be a year, 18 months tops to refresh, cleanse, almost like going for a year-long spa or something.
Like that.
And
As
maybe
we love to know.
go back either into the industry or into a related industry, kind of freshened with, new eyes and revitalized. Oh, bugger that. That never happened. It just kept growing and growing and growing. And so the first place I went to walking out of my door was 200 meters down the road. That 200-meter journey helped transform my life. And I went to take lessons at Nam Yoga. There was a chalkboard outside, 2 weeks for $20 or something.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up going there on a very regular basis, 3 or 4 times a week, because I could. And I got to love it. And then decided, or was guided, to take the teacher training the next year, which is when you come in.
Yes, that is exactly it. But then there was so much more that happened. So just continue on knowing your... Well, you had the NAM training, but then just also about the self-discovery in that journey and, oh God, the cleaning that has to go in along with that.
Over that first year and a half, I did lots of different interdisciplinary things. So I studied Reiki with 2 different people, which I really liked. Mm-hmm. And I started, when I met you, to do some very interesting past life clearing with Tammy Coyne.
That's right.
And I was doing a lot of webinars. I did a lot of shamanic work, but one of the biggest, and again, another proud moment for me, was going to do ayahuasca ceremonies.
Oh, that's right. I thought you were going to go into the aroma. That's right.
Well, the aroma came a bit later. But the ayahuasca, I mean, I was really scared.
Yeah, your story of that experience is quite alarming, interesting. Well, you could just tell the level of imagination that exists within you, also with your old career. But God, when you tell it, boy, is it animated.
Well, when we, after each experience, you do a show and tell the next day, and I, of course, naively went for a long weekend for my first ayahuasca. So I did 3 in one weekend, and my first one was so brutal. I didn't know whether I would be able to go back and do the other 2. So we're at show and tell, and I was describing what happened to me, and nearly everybody in the room just turned and went, "Oh, you must be a creative."
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That you get from the moment. But I forgot about that.
Yeah. It was. It played a big part, but I think on an unconscious or obviously subconscious level, I didn't walk around with it being apparent and kind of visibly changed, but I think underneath, it shook an awful lot up. I mean, it really shook the foundations, which was so necessary. And then the actual NAM journey, the NAM training we did is intense.
Yeah, we didn't know that because we wouldn't have signed up for it if we would have known ahead of time. We always say that.
But we also really, really wanted and needed that transformation. Something in us knew that it was going to be transformative. Yep. It was not just going to be 200 hours of downward dogging.
Because it's true. It's very deceiving when you think of a yoga teacher training, but it wasn't. It was a blend of Eastern philosophy, about the Kabbalah, about breath work. So it also had Kundalini in it.
And Judeo-Christian
and mantras from India.
It's very cleverly cherry-picked.
Yes.
It's kind of a contemporary version, kind of a contemporary cherry-picking of Eastern and Western philosophies, cleverly put together.
Yeah.
And it's a life transformation. Yes. It's not really a yoga teacher. It is yoga teacher training, but it's bigger than that.
It's so much bigger than that. I think it's in the sense of in India, when they call yoga, it's not just about doing, like you said, downward dog. This is like a whole lifestyle discipline, and it kicked our ass. It absolutely kicked our ass. But now on the other side of it is this beautiful blend that it's funny that you just said that about Nam, because you did that for yourself with all of your talents. I think the coolest thing about meeting you now is being able to see, knowing who you are and where you are now, and that now you've you've blended everything. It's almost like your life's work and everything has culminated and come together and is now in this Mark Connolly alchemy, Reiki, and aroma.
I know.
And
It's
like all of that now is
that's
there.
interesting. That's very interesting because I mean, do you remember we were terrified at the idea of standing up in front of people and talking?
Mhm.
And what are you doing now?
Mhm.
And the idea of giving a lesson was
Literally
horrifying.
terrifying. We were like two little kids getting ready for school, petrified that we were going to forget how to do something. I didn't
Well,
want
we hadn't done our homework.
No.
Like,
Well, that was it. And the mantras, yes, we didn't even want our voices to be heard. Holy shit.
That's such a good point. We didn't. We weren't. Well, we felt we weren't ready.
Meanwhile, here we are now. And it's like our voices are now the instruments that we're using in this next phase of us to kind of just heal, whatever, just do our mission in the world that we want to do. And having this little guy, I want you to talk about now the plants and the aroma and your special relationship with those guys, because I call you my dealer now. As they sit here all lined up.
Yeah, well, it was a very, very interesting moment or period. I had just tentatively started doing Reiki on people, and I had also done a lot of online studying with Mind Valley, and I felt ready to move a little bit. So I was tentatively figuring out what my next direction was going to be, and a mutual friend of ours told me that she had been guided to get me to take the aromatherapy course, and she was very convincing, and it was obvious it was not a sales pitch or anything, because we ended up doing the course at my apartment and I didn't pay, which is great. But it was very, very powerful, and it connected me to something from childhood. Any of my close friends know that I have been obsessed by fragrance and essence since I was a child. And working with the essences took me right back there and connected me to that. But not only that, I think it connected me back to my intuitive childhood. I think it brought up a lot of inner child stuff.
Yeah, that's why we got this guy.
And which was a really good thing. It needed to come up, and then there was unfinished business, if you will. Yeah. And it was very, very, very powerful. And the minute I introduced the aromatherapy into my practice, it not only radically altered my practice, but it changed my life. It really changed my life. It brought a sense of purpose. It brought a sense of, there you are, coming home with the essences. It was beyond natural, wasn't it? I mean, you saw,
yeah.
It just was that missing piece of a puzzle, if you will. Yeah. And I connected with them so well that I started working with them a lot, and I never ever did my practice without them, again. And then I began to realize that even though I'd graduated as a yoga teacher, I didn't want to teach yoga, and I didn't want to be a Reiki master, and I didn't want to teach anybody else's discipline. So I spent another year working with the essences and the Reiki and the energy, figuring out what my thing was, because I could only teach my thing, which was really annoying because I'm trying to support myself and think, it was, like, oh no, another year.
Try not to force things to happen in the time frame you want because of money, fill in the blank, and all that stuff, and just kind of trusting and allowing, and then you did get it, because then you came up with your...
but you need to tell that story, because...
the journeys? So we always call 72nd Street the block of, I don't know what it is, if there's like a portal there or something. Every time we walk down that block, things seem to come through. And the first thing that happened was, I got invited to do a demonstration of what he does with the Reiki at MZ
Wallace, which is a really cool bag store online and on Crosby Street.
Yep. And
a friend of mine is their marketing and communications director, and she said, "Hey, every summer we invite 100 of our top customers to events during the summer, and we generally do things like mindfulness and wellness or nutrition or whatever. And she said, I want to give you the store for 3 hours one night, empty store for an event. And I was like, well, that's very nice, but what the fuck am I going to do? I mean, what do I do?
Yep.
How does what I do translate to an event?
Yep.
And so we were having an evening at my place, and you had some boyfriend issues.
Yes.
And you were really upset. And so we decided to go and get pizza and a bottle of wine.
Yes.
So Tonia is regaling, and is pouring her heart out to me, and practically in tears as we're walking down the road to get the comfort food. And I literally do something from a movie. It must have felt so rude, but I wasn't. I went, don't speak. And I said, stop. And I got a download of exactly what I should do at the event. I'd never had anything like that before happen to me. And fortunately, you were so sympathetic and you totally understood.
I was like, okay, because if you stopped me in mid that, it had to be something. And he grabbed my arm and he was just like, I have to stop you. And I'm like, because it's not something that he normally does. So I was like, okay, what's up? And he's like, I got it. And it's like this information poured out. And then for like the next week and a half, I would just get texts in the middle of the night of, Tonia, I woke up and I figured out what else I'm doing. And I'm going to put together this different thing. And from there, it basically brought, it was like the foundation of now what you have as your journeys. It got expanded. And then that continued into your journeys that you now have and that you do and give and treat people with that are freaking fabulous.
Thank you. Yeah, that download was the beginning of everything, because it made me put everything together. It made me format what it is that I do and what I want to do. And it gave me the foundation of what I created and what was to come. And so, and then I began to work at the hottest beauty store in New York City, basically. It's called Onda, and it's all about clean and organic beauty. And they asked me to go in there and do my thing in their treatment rooms. And that forced me to put it together in a commercial way, because I had to give options to the clients. I had to both explain what I do and differentiate the treatments and or the oil. So that made me really focus. And so I did that, and then created the 7 chakra journeys, and then my website, markconnollyalchemy.com, and with a description of all of the 7 journeys and beautiful illustrations by Melissa Detroit.
That's right, who we had on the last 2, whatever it was. Yeah.
And so that was my coming out as a healer, if you will.
Yeah,
I mean, it was there, it was public, and there was no going back from there.
No.
But already the website needs to change.
Well, that's the
because
whole
my
thing.
work's changed.
That's the thing, you start to realize once you start on this, you can't go back. It's like a world opens up or a perspective opens up, and then once you get your foot through the door, you kind of can't close that door again. You kind of just have to keep walking forward in it. And once you open up your intuition, you just keep getting guided with more, because you're meant to kind of just serve in whatever way. So it kind of just comes through. So it's always evolving and changing. And thank God did we get better at accepting and not resisting, but surrendering. That effing word, but surrender. And we've gotten better at doing that. And now it's just really cool to just keep seeing the freaking things and how much it's changing, and you're evolving and just more. I don't know, like I just can't wait to see what else is gonna happen.
Yeah, it is. It has been changing a lot in the particularly last 6 months, because I went back to Arizona to do a very intensive 8-day course for the next level of aromatherapy with Wisdom of the Earth in Sedona, and that was another life-changing experience. And I believe that constant education and growth and renewal are really essential to what we do.
Yep.
So And I did things there that I never thought I would do. I'm the least woo-woo of any healer you'll ever meet.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, for quite a period, I had what we nicknamed waft envy,
Yes.
where I was so jealous of people who seemed to be talking to their angel on their shoulder, or seeing a beam of light, or checking your aura out. And I got none of that. I kind of felt a bit flat with it until I realized that
You're a plant whisperer.
I'm a plant whisperer, and everything just comes to me either in visions or just as a way of knowing. I just know. And because we know a lot of intuitives and psychics and work with them, and they've all kind of confirmed that aspect, that mine is much more quiet, and but it pissed me off for a while.
Yes,
I have to say.
You wanted the bolt of light.
Oh, of course I did.
You wanted
I wanted angels. I wanted, I wanted to have that dialogue, with the angel on the shoulder.
Love, you do have dialogues, and they are there. I've been there for them. But again, it's just cool, and like why in doing this and sharing, because a lot of it comes out of pain too, and it's realizing that the acronym that I love is pain is pay attention inward now, and that's really
love that.
What it is. It's a way to, and you embrace that, right? You had your grieving period after you got booted out and didn't want to walk away because your identity was wrapped in it, but then you embraced this. I mean, you had such a fabulous career, and then having the courage to then just walk forward saying, all right, I'm not done yet. And I feel like it talks to so many people because of, like you said, your age, and having that, 20 years ago, I look at even my parents, when they do something, there was this era of, you stayed in your job all of your life, you retired, there was this script, and that's what you followed. And after a certain age, it's sort of like, well, you don't do things, you don't work anymore, and all of that. And you kind of change the game with that one. And I know a lot of people who are desiring that as well, which is why I was so excited to share kind of like your journey, what you did, that you did it, that it's possible, and that, the pain isn't a bad thing. Pain is the motivation to kind of embrace. It's a gift, and you don't see it in the moment,
No.
but it's absolutely a gift.
Okay,
Absolutely
so talking about that, one thing I would like to share with everybody is that the other big pain moment about that whole situation was also the realization, and this is the sad bit, the realization that I stayed in a job and in a position that was toxic.
Yeah.
I preferred to spiral down for those last 5 years and to be in this horrible situation rather than risk, making an effort to leave. The pain is often our comfort zone.
Yes, it is.
And many people would prefer to be in pain than make a change.
Yeah.
And so why I stayed in New York to do all of my journeys and to do all of my work over the last 5 years was to help people do that, to bring the idea of transformation and mind, body, spirit to people in an urban center. You don't have to be waffly and woo-woo.
Mm-hmm.
And because I went through so much pain and so much personal transformation, I wanted to help people not to make the same mistakes, either to listen to their intuition, listen to people, when you get that nagging doubt, to do something about it. And so I want to help people like that, or people that have gone through a trauma or have been fired or divorced or whatever, that need to kind of regroup and push the reset button. Because I want to make it easier for other people. It's never going to be easy.
But you can assist and
Absolutely.
support, and it doesn't need to be so hard. I think that's the whole thing too, and this is why we call ourselves journey partners. Part of what made it so bearable and enjoyable, actually, was that we had each other and, the people in their life. It's also why I'm doing these Tea with Tonias too, for people to have those stories, have those people realize what's possible in community and with others. And that's what kind of makes the pain then bearable, is having people there to witness and kind of go through it with you, and then motivate you to move out of that place and everything else.
So good. To be seen. To be seen in your pain, to be seen at your worst, to be Yeah, and then to be supported, and as you said, community. And we've discussed quite a few times about creating some kind of series or program about journey partners, about putting people together in a a nationwide community, perhaps, that where you have a buddy, you have a spiritual buddy who's going through transformation. It doesn't have to be the same as yours, because it was invaluable for us. I would not be where I am today without you.
Ditto.
Because it just wouldn't have happened. And
we would have stopped because it was fucking painful and hard, and inner child is a mean little fucker. Like, dealing with that stuff is not, I understand why people stay in the pain of it. But on the other side is joy, and that's the whole part. I mean, it's the essence of what I do.
I was hoping you were going to mention joy.
Yeah, always, because that's the gift of the pain. That's what's on the other side of it. So when you stay stuck in the pain, you kind of don't get the gift of the joy that's on the other side of it. But there's some work that needs to get done, which then brings me to my next question is, what do you do in your life for joy?
I like that it keeps changing, and we'll get back to what I actually do, but you and I make a concerted effort. That's why I'm glad you brought up joy, because we've talked about joy a lot, and we make ourselves do things that bring us joy, both together and independently. And you're very big on that, which I like, because I think joy is such an underused word and something that's underfelt. And so I like that you're bullish about joy, and that joy is, you bring that into the description of what it is that you do. And I have an essence for that.
Yes, you do.
I do. I have an essence that's just pure joy, which is Egyptian geranium. For me, I use my essences. I wear them all day.
Yes, you do.
I mean,
you do.
They are an important part of my life, and I switch them up throughout the day. My biggest source of joy, which you're fully aware of, is cooking.
Yes, it is. It was the first place that you allowed yourself to improv and just be you and just work with your creative intuition in that realm. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, you've borne witness to it, and also lots of ideas come from it. Or it's almost like a meditation for me. And so I love that. I love. This is very cheesy. I love watching The Voice.
Yes, you do.
And then, particularly with you, we love going to the opera and the ballet, cinema, eating, bike riding up the Hudson.
That's right. I can't wait to start doing that again.
I know. That was my number one. That was a lifesaver for me, discovering that because I used to travel so much, I never really got to know my neighborhood. And, there was a situation with my apartment that when I bought it, it was a broken relationship. Won't go into that. And it seemed like to be a tainted apartment for me. So I never got used to the neighborhood. And then going through my transformation sounds so grand, and discovering the bike path and biking, and oh my God, the difference it made. And then I got to know my neighborhood, and I got to love living on the river, by the park. Getting to know my neighborhood brought me joy, actually. It was, and then also us doing kid things, like going to ride on the seashell, the glass shell.
Oh no, the lights.
Oh,
the lights went out.
Ooh,
that sounded like right. The lights went out. Oh, because I had it on battery.
Oh, I thought that was my angel moment.
No, love. This is Mercury retrograde in its full effect. So that's what happens when you live.
So, I'm going biking on Governor's Island.
Oh my God, that's the greatest. Yeah. And the slide that's there. But yeah, the kid things, I love being a kid with you. Yeah. Oh, yes. And it's the first day of spring, so it's going to be back again, that we're going to be able to start doing those things again.
And then outdoors. Also, we went, I loved going away to like Shivananda for that weekend, getting our 5 a.m. groove on.
Yeah. And then on the last day, we were like, we're not doing it today. Yeah. Oh my God, so good. Cool. Joy is so important.
Mhm.
I say that it is an expression of love. It's one of the ways of expressing love, which is why, bringing out and just, connecting to what brings us joy. And, it's really simple to do. It's simply and easily as going outside.
It's self-love.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, and
There's an
often,
essence for that too.
oh, yes, there is. Often it's giving your inner child a treat and some recognition,
Yeah.
especially if we do things that are more childlike. My sister came over and recently, and we went on the carousel in Central
Right.
Park. So it's that kind of
Yeah.
thing. Oh, amusement park.
Yes. Roller coasters,
I know.
rides. And it is. It's like those, and that's the giving back to ourselves, because if you're not laughing and enjoying, then sort of like, it's the point, in a way.
Absolutely, and particularly if we've put so much into changing our lives. I mean, to just be our most authentic selves, or if you like, a better version, of which just takes me to a point. For a while at the beginning of my journey, I thought that the transformation meant that I would be totally transformed, that I would almost be a different person. Shoot me.
Yeah, it's actually the opposite. It's
Mhm.
realizing that you're not broken. You don't need to be fixed. You end up just being more of you and
Yes.
finding yourself.
Absolutely.
It is the weirdest and most cruel joke of all. It's like, oh, it's always been here. Fuck off. Like, are you kidding me? Like, you're telling me that I didn't have to find anything, that everything was within. And usually all it is to just give yourself the time to understand that you literally have all the answers. It's like the biggest cliches come true.
Absolutely.
And you're like, oh, shit.
And more importantly, how to deal with your shadow side.
Oh, yeah.
Which I do a lot of work on that, and how to acknowledge it and accept it, and not see it as bad. One of my meditations that I've been doing with Unplug in LA and Donna Karen's Urban Zen is all about that, and about acknowledging and accepting the things that perhaps are perceived as negative, or that you've been told are negative about you. And what needs to go can go, but what's part of you and has formed you needs to stay and be honored.
Yes.
That's a good word.
Yep, and accepted, because it is a part of you. And if you not accept that side of you, you're not accepting yourself in totality. And that's the whole thing. You gotta love all of it: the shadow, the light, the good, the ugly, and all of it. So
but it's what makes you you
uniquely, and that's the gift of all of us. So it's like, yeah, I think that's the whole, such a good way to kind of just like wrap, is the transformation is just you finding your uniqueness and then celebrating it, because no one is made like you.
I've got an essence for that.
Of
It's
course you
Tuja.
do.
It's Tuja, cedar leaf, and it is all about standing in your divine, magnificent, sovereign self and dealing with all the shadow side of stuff to bring you up into who you really are.
I love it. And you really do. So now, what do you want to share? I say, like, not like a tool or whatever it is, but what's like a thing you want to share with people, or something that you learned? I kind of feel like we just went there.
A thing. Well, one of the biggest things was what I said earlier about staying in your comfort zone. And staying either in pain or what is comfortable for you. And that, which brings me on to a risk taking and banging through doors, pushing through doors. The growth is in the fear.
Yeah.
That would be my numero uno tip, that to face your fears.
Yeah.
You don't have to do them all at once. Right. But bit by bit, and the more you do, and the more you break through your barriers, the more you can do it, and then you see results pretty quickly. Like I had to do it with teaching meditation, and which and public speaking has never been my big thing, believe it or not.
Yeah, and here you are now.
Yeah, and so it was a big one for me, and the yoga teacher training, and our final teaching exam was a big one for me. So there've been, and then listening to your gut, listening to your intuition, which I did recently, which sent me to Los Angeles, which is not a place I would normally go to.
But all the
So
gifts that were there.
listen to any nagging fears and doubts. Try not to stay in your comfort zone, because the growth is in the pain.
There we go. Fucking ended it there. I'm just like, oh my God. And it is, I mean, there's nothing more to be said. There really is. The growth is in the pain. And you don't have to do it alone. I know a lot of it needs to be done, like only you can do it. But having someone to bear witness to it does make it that much more enjoyable, pleasurable, bearable, and keeps it going. But then it turns fun in a way to have someone bear witness to that. So just thank you for being here today, sharing your magnificence. And I am going to post your website on there because people, you need to check him out. His Reiki sessions are ridiculous. And he is not lying. These are the essences that he uses, and they're literally love in a bottle. This one is for protection. Like, he's just got the most magnificent thing. So again, I'm going to put his information on this Facebook Live so that you can learn more about what it is that you do, because it really is absolutely amazing.
Thank you. And wouldn't be here without you.
That's right. Ditto love. Well, everyone, happy first day of spring. Thank you for joining us today, and enjoy your day.
Enjoy your day.
Bye.